Women Innovators. Interviews with women with big messages and big missions, sharing their stories to inspire you to live your passion and step up to make the world a better place. Here's your host, Tammy Patzer.
Hi, this is Tammy Patzer, and I'm really excited to introduce you to today's guest, Heather Hanson. Heather is a lifelong learner, educator, swing dancer, and international travel enthusiast. She is devoted to her family, friends, and helping improve the community around her. She has 16 years of experience in education, both as an English as a second language teacher, as well as in positions of school administration. She has a bachelor's degree in Intercultural Communications from Eckerd College, a master's degree in education from Radford University, and additional postgraduate hours from Nova Southeastern University. She currently works as a school administrator for 2 charter schools, RCMA Wimauma Academy and RCMA Leadership Academy. She's a data coach with Hillsborough County Public Schools, an avid swing dancer, and amateur model. Heather, welcome.
Hey, Tammy. It's great to talk to you today.
I'm really interested in your background because, number one, and I'll start with your hobbies or avocations before I get into what you do on a daily basis. But let's talk about the fact that you're an international traveler, swing dancer, and that you're an amateur model. Every single one of those sounds like there's a story behind them. So tell me a little bit more about your background.
Well, I grew up in West Virginia, a lovely small town called Lewisburg, West Virginia, in the Greenbrier Valley, lived in the same house, had the same friends up through graduation from high school, and then came to Florida for college at Eckerd College, which is a fantastic small liberal arts college, and in the first semester met a lot of people from different countries and found out that Eckerd has a big focus on international overseas studies as well as international students on campus, and cross-cultural bug bit me, and felt like my goal would be to live overseas and become bilingual. And I ended up being an English as a second language teacher a few years later, and did some work in Istanbul, Turkey, in Nagoya, Japan, did a lot of traveling in Western Europe and in some other countries in Asia, as well as Mexico and Haiti.
Wow, that is an international background. So you were in Japan, and that's where you actually landed and started doing some heavy-duty teaching?
Yes, I had done some other teaching before I landed in Japan, but Japan was the longest job I had when I was a teacher as opposed to being an administrator. I taught at a 2-year vocational college in Nagoya, Japan, and I really enjoyed the culture there. I loved the food, and I really became very passionate about sumo wrestling. Nagoya is one of the cities that hosts the sumo wrestling tournaments that only occur 6 times per year. And I studied the language, the written and the spoken language, and I just had a really great time and a really good social life.
So how did you end up coming back from Japan? It sounds like you were really happy there.
I was very happy there. I felt like I was living out my life's dreams, which, like I said before, were to live overseas and to work towards becoming bilingual. And unfortunately, though, I started having some trouble with my right arm and hand. Some paralysis that was difficult to define started occurring, and I tried to go back to work and just work part-time while seeing doctors in Japan, and the pain with time spread throughout my body. And it was excruciating pain that made it difficult to even stand up, to even raise my arm above my head. Even riding in a taxi in Japan, the vibrations of that caused me more pain. After about 3 months of going back and forth between trying to work part-time and then resting, I finally had to give it up and a doctor suggested I be placed in the hospital, and I ended up being in a Japanese hospital for 2 months under the care of an orthopedic surgeon who was fortunately fluent in English as well because he'd studied in Pennsylvania.
So,
with time, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I was just going to ask, and then what?
Then part of the diagnosis they were presuming had to do with something in my C7 area of my neck, which is called a cervical rib, which for some people can be just an abnormality that is benign, but it seemed like it was causing a severe paralysis on my right arm and hand, and perhaps excising the cervical rib might be a solution. So with that presumption, they sent me to a teaching hospital in another city, but that surgeon diagnosed me with reflex sympathetic dystrophy and said people with reflex sympathetic dystrophy should not have anything happen to them that incurs more pain, because your problem is that your pain mechanism has gone on overdrive and is misfiring and is the reason that you're in constant severe pain more so than the cervical rib. So excising the rib isn't going to solve your problem, so let's not do surgery. So that was that. They were very kind and generous at the hospital because, like I said, I stayed 2 months in inpatient hospital, and that is probably unheard of in the United States just for having chronic pain. And I left Japan at the end of 2 months and came back to the United States to West Virginia to stay with my parents with the intention that somehow I would magically get well and just somehow return to a productive life of a young person who was excited about life and had career goals and had a master's degree and had interests, but my body had other problems, and I just wasn't able to quite get back to work. I spent several years seeking medical attention from various doctors in West Virginia, North Carolina, and Florida with a lot of hypothetical diagnoses, but nothing really concrete, and very minimal help with treatment plans. Basically, I just lived with my family and tried to coordinate my medical treatments and medical appointments, and I felt as if I had lost a lot of my passions in my life. I had not lost my family. I had not lost my Christian faith, but I had lost my social life. I had lost my interest in life, living overseas. I was living in a retirement town in Sun City, which was a very, very supportive place to live when you have a chronic pain or disability problem, but it wasn't giving me the right social interaction I needed as a young person in my early 30s, so I was rather depressed.
So obviously something switched or a light turned on, or you discovered something, because today you actually are swing dancing and you're an amateur model. So what did you discover, or what happened that helped you actually, now you're working at the different academies and you do have a pretty bright social life. So what happened there?
It was a gradual process over several years' time. I think the first really important component of my healing process was being 3 weeks in the Tampa General Pain Clinic, an inpatient therapy program with focused physical therapy, occupational therapy, psychotherapy, and education from nurses, trying to educate the whole person on how to deal with and manage chronic pain and still live your life, even though you might not be able to get rid of all the pain. And I also did a lot of meditation and hypnotherapy, and had a lot of different people help me with those processes. I did other complementary therapy modalities such as aromatherapy, magnet therapy, vitamin therapy, you name it. I probably did try it at one point or another. And I just went very, very slowly. I went back to work at a job where I worked 10 hours a week. I did that for 8 months. After that, I went to a job where they allowed me to work 12 to 15, sometimes 18 hours a week. I did that for several years before I gradually moved into full-time. over that period of time, too, I also had a really wonderful boyfriend who was a best friend and boyfriend who is a stroke survivor. And he really was an inspiration to me and a very good model for me in how to live your life with chronic disability issues, but still make every day count and get up every day, be grateful for your life, enjoy all the interactions you have with the people that you love. He really modeled that very well for me.
Wow. So of all the things that you did, would you say it really was a combination of all those things? Or was there any one thing you did that seemed to really help with the pain management? Because you mentioned meditation, hypnosis, vitamins, exercise. It sounded like you did a lot of different things.
I believe it was a combination of all those things. And just the accepting the gradual process, accepting that it was a process of pacing myself, setting some goals, but not goals too high, pushing myself, but not pushing myself too hard. Because anytime I would push myself too hard, I would often have setbacks. And the setbacks sometimes lasted weeks or several months, sometimes even years. I was in 2 car accidents in 2011, for example, and that set me back several years.
Oh, I see. So this process in 1996 is when you started to have the issues with the...
Yes.
So, and this is, of course, 2017 as we record this. So this has been a long process. But the good news is that you obviously recognize and you pay attention to when you are doing too much, and so you know how to pace yourself. Tell me more about your passion for dancing.
That's a really, really big help for me when I feel a little bit less than able to do everything I want to do. Because occasionally I still have an urge to live overseas again, and I feel like I probably don't have a strong enough foundation in my health to live overseas again. So sometimes I feel a little shortchanged, let's say. But I try to make up for that with all the other passionate, interesting things I can do and capitalize on that. The dancing I started in 2007, and I met up with a group of swing dancers in the Tampa area. I participate in dances with a group called Swing Time, and they have weekly dances, and I really, really had a lot of fun meeting people in a very casual, fun environment with people being very upbeat and positive, just to get together, enjoy music, enjoy expressing your love of music through the dance. I just really had a lot of fun with that, and I very quickly turned into a party organizer. Within about 6 months, I started organizing parties with themes for my friends and getting people to dress up according to the theme and sing karaoke style as well as dance and dress up and have a big party. So I turned into a social leader within the swing dance community, and whether I could, say, get on a plane and go overseas again, or whether I could run a marathon, I can't do those things, but I found out what I could do. And I really love interacting with people. I like people around me to be happy, and so I just tried to create that.
So you have the swing dancing bug. Did you always know how to dance, or what made dancing appeal to you?
Dancing appealed to me because I grew up with a mother who is a dancing teacher, and she had a dancing studio for young girls that taught ballet, jazz, tap, and gymnastics. And she was the only dancing teacher in Greenborough County at the time, and in fact there weren't any teachers in the neighboring county, so she taught a lot of classes of dance to meet the need of the young people who wanted to learn dance. And I started at 3 years old, and I would take a lot of different classes at the same time, and if I wasn't taking a class, I was watching the other students take class, because after school, the dancing studio was my babysitter. And she had, yes, and she had 2 really large recitals each year. And what do you do at recitals? You put on costumes and you dance. So I picked this up again in my adult life, this putting on a costume and dancing and performing. And it's just a real joy to entertain other people through music and dance and costuming. And I guess that's what I'm continuing to do in my 40s. It's just interesting that I wasn't doing that in my 20s and 30s, and I picked up things from my childhood and from the influence of my mother here again in my 40s.
That is really interesting. And the fact that you like costumes and dancing, then it makes perfect sense that now you're also an amateur model. Tell me more about that adventure.
A friend of mine who owns a ballroom studio called Dance Forever in Clearwater, she was participating in a meetup group and posting her pictures on Facebook, and I've enjoyed those for about 2 years, and finally I just got up the courage to say, maybe I should try this out with you, Kathy. And the meetup group is based around photographers and amateur models who want to help each other out and help build portfolios for each other and just practice the skills involved in creating an interesting creative image. And it's called Tampa, capital T, lowercase a, capital M-P-A, and it's through meetup.com, and we just get together around a special location and a theme, and the models can assemble their costumes however they wish according to the theme, and usually it takes about 2.5 to 3 hours of time interacting with different photographers and creating different images. And it's a really nice creative outlet for me. I feel like even recently I was participating in one of these, and I was in a lot of pain, and I haven't been able to walk very well lately because of that pain, but still I was able to participate in a really fun Tampa event at a Western TV set that isn't currently used as a TV set, but is definitely a TV set, fully functioning at one time. And I was able to participate for 3 hours, just modifying the way I stood so that I didn't put too much weight on my left foot, came up with great pictures, had a super time, and I didn't even need to tell anybody I was in pain. And I like being able to capitalize on what I can do.
I think that really is very inspiring, because you're basically saying, hey, I still have pain, but I'm not going to let that stop me from living my life and having a good time. And like I said earlier, when you said that you recognize when you maybe are doing too much so you can manage yourself along those same lines. So, wow, you've got such a fascinating background, and your daily life as a teacher and administrator is also very interesting. So tell me more about the Wimauma Leadership Academies. Those sound very interesting. And tell our audience a little bit about where these academies are and a little more about that.
Sure, I'd love to tell about that. I work for a charter school. This is my 10th year as part of, well, actually 2 charter schools on the same campus that are under the umbrella of a nonprofit organization called Redlands Christian Migrant Association, which is in its 51st year of existence in the state of Florida. It's well known around the state of Florida for operating Head Starts and child care centers, mainly catering to families who are migrant farm working families or low-income Hispanic families and might not have as many choices for the private child care options. And this organization owns about 60 or so centers around the state and also 3 charter schools. And I'm an administrator at 2 of the 3. And we are very proud of the things we do to help young people see a brighter future for themselves and try to see education as a way to have more options in life than just repeating the type of work that their parents have done, which is usually in construction or agriculture. And we have a relative amount of success. We have a lot of students who are accepted into special programs once they leave our school because of their academic success. And we're very proud of what we do. I work with people who are very passionate about helping each and every child be successful. And we have a lot of support from the community. It's another thing I think is very special about our schools is how much community support we have through volunteers, partnerships, and grants. So each and every day I feel like I see a miracle happen, and I think that is also something that keeps me happy and positive, and puts a fresh smile on my face if on one day or 2 days I might wake up feeling a little less healthy. Getting to school and seeing the children's faces, and they're so appreciative of what we do at school, knowing that the community is behind our schools, knowing that I work with people who really care. This surpasses any of my feelings that I might have started the day off with about, ooh, that medication gave me a bad side effect and I don't feel so good. So I feel like my recipe for living a happy, successful life has a lot to do, too, with my job and feeling passionate and feeling able to contribute to the community through my work.
Wow. So so you work with a lot of migrant families, and many of them, obviously, English is not their first language. So what are some of the things that you do to help these people and their children?
Well, one of the things we do is we have a lot of what you call in the education environment, a print-rich environment. We have a lot of things that are visually stimulating and use language to bring in forth concepts and vocabulary in their environment. We use a lot of singing and chanting. Young people love singing and music, so we use those to help teach educational concepts. And we also have a lot of people on campus who are bilingual, so that if the children do need that support from their home language, they have plenty of people to access for that. We believe that the children shouldn't forget their home language, that they should build both languages at the same time, and then they'll be stronger as an adult. They'll have more opportunities for jobs if they're bilingual. They'll have more opportunities to have relationships with people if they're bilingual. So we don't want them to forget that, but at the same time, we want them to be strong in the English language. We also invest a lot in extracurricular activities and field trips. Our children average about 5 field trips a year, and we take them to local sporting events, local art shows, performing arts events to get them exposed to different things in the community, because our typical child, you ask them, what did you do this weekend? It's either Walmart, hang out with my cousins, or go to the flea market. The next week you ask them again, what did you do this weekend? And it's the same 3 options again and again and again. So to really see a future with unlimited possibilities, you have to see the world. You have to see what's out there. So we invest heavily through grant writing to get the funds to take the children out in the community.
I think that you're absolutely right, and that's something that Eckerd College, I also am an Eckerd College grad, and that is something that I really got a lot out of from going to Eckerd College. And you're applying that lifelong learner concept out in the real world, and every day you're helping these children and their parents understand not only is a good education about learning the basics of, whatever writing and math and arithmetic, but it is about that multicultural being out in the world. And I think you're absolutely right about being bilingual, because if you're able to communicate in multiple languages, it really is a door opener, and especially here in Florida, where we have a lot of different languages that people speak. And if you can speak, say, English and Spanish, that really does open a lot of doors. Do you find that the children that you work with, that they need a lot of support, or what do you think is the most important thing for the children to learn about in terms of to help them develop a real healthy self-esteem?
We try to emphasize to set goals and reach goals. We also give them lots of love and acceptance, and we give them a lot of forgiveness. If they stumble with their behavior, We definitely have some consequences, but we try to emphasize the minimal amount of consequences for their poor behavior and a lot of understanding, forgiveness, and talking through the issue with them. We also work really closely with the parents and have a good relationship with our parents and families, which is part of the whole picture of educating a child. We have over 90% attendance at most of our parent meetings, and we have a lot of classes in the evenings for parents on how to be a better parent and how to participate in the United States educational system. And those classes are given in Spanish for the parents because we want the parents to be partners with us. We want the parents to see the school as a resource for them. And through that, you help the child move towards healthy self-esteem. When the parents value education, which frankly, culturally speaking, the Mexican culture comes from a background of respecting educators and respecting teachers, but even more so, we provide a lot of extra services for the parents and a partnership feeling to provide that cooperation between the parents, the school, and the child.
So what do you think because you're used to working with people from different cultural backgrounds, what do you think are some of the misconceptions that people have about these parents and children who are, part of that migrant worker or the Hispanic community?
Well, I think that in our immediate community, I think we're fortunate that I don't hear a lot of negative stereotypes. And like I said, that we do have so many organizations who accept our grant applications and fund them, or partnership with us by bringing people on campus or letting our students go to something off campus to experience life. So I honestly feel that in our immediate area in Hillsborough County, I'm not experiencing a lot of negative bias. But at the same time, I am from, rural West Virginia, which traditionally has had some bias against people who are from outside. And when I say from outside, I even mean there was some bias against people from Virginia, the neighboring state, at times. So the bias, extends to people who are other than sometimes in some parts of our country and some people's minds. And I think that one of the biases that you might find is that people from farm working communities are just naturally not able to learn much, maybe not able to do much more than their parents anyway. So maybe a person might think that they can't go further. However, we have a very active gifted services program at our school, and we actually have 8% of our population being served in the gifted program, whereas the traditional Florida school has about 4.5%. So we definitely have children who can think out of the box and have interests that are really strong in different academic areas and can be served in the gifted program. We also have students who graduate from our 8th grade and go into a program in a local high school that's a very competitive program where they get to be in a dual enrollment program with a local community college. And they get to work on their high school degree as well as an AA degree at the same time. And if these young people who are from farm working backgrounds can be competitive and do that, I think that shows that they do have the ability. Just providing young people with the right set of circumstances and support and love and understanding, I like to believe that any child can succeed.
I think you're absolutely right. And you are an example of everything that you're talking about is all about setting goals and moving forward, being persistent, and also lifting others up and helping them to take everything that they have to be a positive factor to improve their lives. And you said that you had a 90% participation rate in your parent meetings. That is just phenomenal, that you have the parents are there supporting their children, and then of course you have in your gifted program 8% versus about 4.5% in the overall state of Florida. So what that really says is that what you're doing is you're really helping to a lot of people move up into doing very positive things with their lives, and that's really phenomenal. So is there anything, before I let you go, that you would like to wrap it up with in terms of a suggestion or a point of view in your life to help other people?
Well, I think that when I spent a lot of time by myself and unable to work and with a very limited social life, I found inspiration in reading biographies. And I think that we all have challenges in our lives, whether they're apparent to the people we interact with on a daily basis or if they're not apparent. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought about biographies, I thought about what I was suffering through, tried to find the commonalities. My suffering was from disability and chronic pain, whereas someone else's challenge and difficulty might be bankruptcy. It might be a very, very difficult divorce. There can be a lot of different things in our lives that can challenge us, but to try to remind ourselves to take a step back and look at the big picture and try to count our blessings and see the commonalities that we have as humans and help each other out and try to capitalize on what you can do. I think that's the message that I'd like to share. I'd also like to mention that if my speaking about Redlands Christian Migrant Association interested anyone, that they might want to learn more about this organization and what it does in the state of Florida, or maybe even possibly make a donation. It's the website is www.rcma.net. I also mentioned my group that I've started swing dancing with, which is Swing Time, and I have since joined up with other swing dancing groups and even other ballroom studios. But the first place I went, and Sam Mafood is the owner and lead dance teacher, and he's a great friend. And that if you happen to be in the Tampa-St. Pete area, he has a dance every Wednesday night, and that is swingtime.info. I also mentioned my friend Kathy Nelson, who is co-owner of danceforeverflorida.com or Dance Forever, which is a ballroom studio in Clearwater. Also mentioned a meetup group I'm in, and if you're not familiar with meetup, it is targeted to your local area, wherever you happen to be. You want to meet up with people who are doing something that you're interested in. There's a lot of niche areas that other people are interested in that you can connect with through www.meetup.com. I just happen to be part of the photography modeling group called Tampa Modeling Photography Association that is run by Sean Newmeyer.
Wow, those are a bunch of really cool things. You really are living a very fascinating life, and I know because I've seen your Facebook page, and you have some phenomenal, for example, photographs and fun photographs. So everyone, definitely in the show notes, I'll put those addresses so that you can easily go to all of the different places that Heather has talked about. So Heather, thank you so much for all your time today. I really appreciate it.
I really enjoyed talking to you, Tammy, and it's so wonderful we got connected because of our common background of graduating from Eckerd College and our common background of loving to help people and loving media and communications and promotions of women. So I think it's been wonderful to get to know you.
Well, thank you. Everyone, this is Tammy Patzer. Go make it a beautiful day.
You've been listening to Women Innovators with Tammy Patzer. To learn more, please go to womeninnovatorsradio.com. And please do subscribe and share to spread the big messages and big missions to change the world.